Meryl Streep starts whenever next year.
Oh, we're going to do a Meryl Streep thing?
Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, I'm in. Totally.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Happy Healthy You, the podcast. So we're recording video and audio today because we have a special guest and we have lots of really cool things to show you. Every year about this time during the holidays, we like to talk about conscious gift giving because, let's face it, it makes us happy to buy things consciously and really appreciate where the gifts that we're giving come from. And I have the perfect person today, Becca Stevens. I'm so happy to have her here in the cafe at Thistle Farms. And let me just give you Becca's bio. She's a mom, she's an Episcopal priest, she's an author and a speaker, and she's the founder of Thistle Farms, a social enterprise that makes bath and body products and supports the efforts of Magdalene, which we will talk about a little bit later. Magdalene is a 2-year free sanctuary for women who survive human trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. So she's been honored as a White House Champion of Change, a Humanitarian of the Year by the Small Business Council of America. She probably hates that I'm telling you this. And she's also a CNN hero. Many of you guys may have seen Becca on the awards last year, walking up in her really cute cocktail dress and her bare feet. She's also the author of lots of books, but her most recent one talks about this journey that you've been on with Magdalene, Love Heals. And we're going to talk about that too. But I want to start, Becca, thank you so much for sitting down with me in this gorgeous new space. Tell me about the new space. I know you just redecorated it.
Well, we've only been open a month. I mean, it's really, really new, so we're just kind of getting our feet going again. We came to a complete halt. We had a cafe. We had, it looked really, really different, but the roof caved in about January of last year. And we thought this is a perfect opportunity, perfect time to really grow it and build it the way we think love looks, And so, I mean, all the details that you'll see around and everything we do is, hopefully you're feeling love in here when you're sitting.
We could feel the love in the lunch we just had. So can I talk about that a little bit?
Yes!
So my husband, Rob, who's behind the camera, had the best roast beef sandwich he's ever had in his whole life.
Wow, that's so sweet.
My sister-in-law had, what did you have? You had the grilled brie and blueberry jam with basil. Had a little bit on my shirt because I had to taste it. And I had the arugula beet salad, quinoa salad.
I can't do beets, ever.
It was so good.
Wow.
So good. And the tea, the way you serve your tea.
Divider.
Beets are a divider.
Like there's pro beets, not pro. You're with me. I mean, it's like half the people watching this go, that sounds amazing. Then the other half of people are like, I didn't know she was a beet eater.
No. Sorry to hear that.
I know.
But good to know.
But good to know. But arugula, I love.
Right. Arugula is good, but I didn't finish it because I didn't want it in my teeth. So anyway, we digress. So let's talk about the new space that you have over next to the cafe where you have all your products.
Let me put it in context. Can I do that a little bit?
Yeah.
So it started about 20 years ago and we were just doing residential. So we were inviting women to come in 2 years, live rent-free with no authority in the house.
Okay.
So that's how we did it for 4 years. And then we realized it was like, okay, if we're talking about love, especially loving women who on average first rate between the ages of 7 and 11, first hitting the streets between the ages of 14 and 16, you better be concerned about their economic well-being and independence. And the women, they weren't getting jobs. It was just this in and out of jail for years for them. And so it's like, okay, let's start a business. We can do this. And so we started making first candles, then body balms and healing oils. And the line just kept expanding. And it was awesome. I mean, it was really a great gift. So fast forward to last year, and Whole Foods finally made a contract with us for all 450 stores for the candle.
That's incredible.
Well, that was the impetus to really get our manufacturing in line so that we could make margins, so that we could grow. We were getting people in from all over the country, and so we knew we needed an education center. So when the roof fell in, we knew it was time to say, okay, Nashville,
sign, right?
We're ready. Yes, it was like, okay, we're ready to do this. And we did. And we went out and raised whole bunch of money. It's a beautiful team of people that were helping us. And so what you're seeing is really we're just what do you say, fresh out of the gate?
Yes, yes. Well, it's beautiful. Last Christmas, almost everybody got the candle, and then a lot of people got the gift set. There's a beautiful hand soap and hand lotion gift set.
It's better this year.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It's
and
better.
then also the not to forget the lip balm,
Yeah.
Thistle Farms lip balm. It's bangering.
Yes.
So good. So there's so many products, and we'll show a lot of the products, and you can obviously go online and shop, which is really exciting.
Which is really great. I mean, that provides jobs. And you can go down there and film too if you want so people can see. When you go online and shop, you'll see, like it's a job for the people that are at the computers getting all the orders. It's the people pulling the products and boxing them and getting them out the door. I mean, it's a real production. It's fun. It's a good thing for us. And the margins are really good.
That's exciting. And you've grown so much. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I want to go back to the residential in Magdalene. So 20 years you've been doing this. Can you, like on reflection in EFM, the program we were talking about, we do a lot of theological reflection. We go back. Can you reflect back to like when that started and where you are now? And aren't you just, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I can talk about it a lot. I mean, it's my life. It's easy to talk about it. But when I started, I think what I thought was like, can you believe it takes a whole community to help 5 women? And it didn't seem like very much. It seemed like it was so small, and there was a lot of resources being put into it. But now, looking back, what I realize is they were pioneers. All the women coming in were so brave, and they had launched a whole, like a movement for women's freedom. We have 42 sister communities that have opened now, and we're in like 26 countries. And it's like 5 women can do a lot. That's what I was thinking about. Just the other day, I was like, 5 women have done a lot. And I think if they help change legislation and myths about prostitution and who's on the streets and why, they did a lot. And I think for all of us, me at least, the lesson was you can think big and do a small act. You don't have to say oh my gosh, 20 million people they're a part of human trafficking every year, so I can't possibly do anything to help. It's just one small step, and then you stay with it. I mean, and the other thing, so it's like staying with it, but then the other thing I always think about is of course I didn't imagine how it would turn out,
How could you?
How could you? Yeah. Of course, and I don't have great vision. I have, tenacity and compassion and all that stuff, but I really do believe in communal vision. I've never picked out a fixture in my life. I've never designed anything, and it's like if you have just this, say, okay, we can do this, and you get somebody can tell a story, then people who have so much more talent at building capacity, at designing, at branding, at marketing, they come to the table.
They show up.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I remember one day there was a woman who was a chemist walked in the door, and she was like, I can help you with these products. I can help you make them a lot better. It was I didn't even know to pray for a chemist. That we were missing that. I didn't even know. It was just
Well, I interviewed Gloria Steinem a few years back, and she wrote, God is in the details, but the goddess is in the question. So I love that.
I love that.
I know, isn't that good?
Yeah.
So the questions, and I said, well, what were the questions for you? And she said, well, why me? Why this isn't fair, and so some of those questions, why? Can you talk about human trafficking a little bit, because I feel like it's an under publicized. Although people are understanding what it's all about more, but I feel like there are pockets of areas that maybe have never heard about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the roots of all the buying and selling of women, a lot of the roots lie in childhood trauma, and especially sexual assault for kids. So when I say on average the women that we serve who have been survivors of trafficking are first rate between the ages of 7 and 11, it reminds you that not always, almost always childhood sexual abuse is part of that story, or at least violence or trauma. And so kids who run away are really, really vulnerable. I sometimes really think there's mostly a myth about the idea that people just come get your kids. That your kids are are pretty stable and they have goals and they're growing and they're doing stuff and they just get, snatched in that way. But I think for people who have known trauma, racism, violence and poverty, all of those things, or who, run away and people, don't come and get them, they're really vulnerable. And people that have been, in foster care systems where it hasn't gone well. I mean, it's almost like the boot camp for it is trauma. I mean, I don't know how else to really say it. But I will say that, a lot of the women that we serve who were trafficked in their teenage years, the drug addictions come in, the sex and drug industries are really tied in, and it's a very punitive system for young girls who run away and get caught up in that. And everywhere we go and we start communities, people say, we're part of this corridor for trafficking, and it's like, yes, every city is now. I mean, because we all have interstates and we all have huge amount of pornography and the downloading of images of young girls on internets, and we have Backpage or whatever it is. It's like people can buy sex all the time. It's everywhere.
And I wanted to talk to you. You mentioned addiction. Like, what does it mean to give women time to feel safe, to heal?
Right. It's a good question. And, a lot of our women go through 28-day programs on purpose but a lot of it's not overnight. You can do an outpatient intensive therapy and be in a really safe house. 2 years is long enough to get to know a therapist really, really well, to make a connection, with a therapist so you can go back as far as you need to go back to start dealing with some of your triggers and how this happened, and to tell your story where you feel like you're really heard and loved and cared for. I mean, I think the best thing we can do is create the time and space for people to find their own healing. It's not like it's a magical thing, like somebody's going to touch you and you're going to be healed and it's this miracle cure. It's like I need time and space and resources so that I can find wholeness and healing where I feel like my feet are on the ground and I can be a mom or a sister or daughter again, or I can figure out what love means to me again, because it's so skewed. And so when you said, you give the women 2 years, like I don't give them anything. Like all we do is say, here it's available, and a lot of people have given a lot, so these houses are available. What we do, we don't take any federal or state funding. What we say is, really, really what we want is for you to know that people have given out of gratitude for all the mercy they've known. So take the gift that a lot of people have given. I mean, you're part of this gift now. You're part of the story. This will help. And use it for however you need, and then help the very next woman. You help the next woman. You give it to the next woman.
And I love the story. You write about it. We'll get to the book.
The
available
book.
everywhere.
Tons of beautiful pictures, y'all.
So many beautiful pictures. You write about the circle that the women, is it every Wednesday, they gather around in the circle?
We do it 3 days a week, but we invite everybody else to come in on Wednesdays. And our ritual is we just light a candle in the middle and we say, we light this candle for the woman who's still suffering on the streets and for the woman who's trying to find her way home. Candles have become critical for us. I mean...
And you can get them. ThistleFarms.org, right?
You can get them all day long, or at any Whole Foods, and anywhere in the country.
I love them. I always have them burning.
They're good
every
candles.
Room, bathroom.
Well, can I say this too, though? Honestly, it's like not hard to make candles. If you make soy wax candles,
never made a candle.
It's not hard. You melt soy wax and you add essential oils. And so people pay $20, $30, $40, $60, whatever the number is that people want to pay. It's all about packaging. So we have like this beautiful, beautiful wick that's all cotton. It's all natural. It burns clean. We have beautiful essential oils. You just melt it and put it with the soy wax. It's like, sometimes I think people think, things are a lot more complicated than they are. Like helping people or loving people or finding women, it's not hard. I mean, we've always had a waiting list of women really, really wanting to come in, and you say, welcome, and people start feeling better, and they want to help, and they want their life to have meaning. They want to be back with their families. They want to drive a car and get their, tickets paid. And it's like, sometimes I think we make community and loving people a lot more complicated than it is.
Yeah, and I love how you say that in here. Just keep it simple when you talk about the mission of Thistle and Magdalene. Keep it simple. Love heals, and that's great. Can we just consider that Thistle for just a minute?
Sure.
Did you get that? Consider the lilies.
Yeah, I got it.
So that's about all I got. So I love the story about how you were working with the thistles. Maybe you should talk about it, and then you come to find out that the healing properties. I love essential oils too. I teach yoga.
Good.
I use essential oils.
You look like you teach yoga.
Well, I'm an old yogi, but
that's so good.
I love it. You talk about that too.
I love yoga.
Yeah, we're yogis. So talk about the thistles just really quick so that people can understand the significance, because everything has a significance.
So we named it Thistle Farms because when we first started out, and several of us were going down to the streets and alleys to meet the women where they were walking and sleeping and turning tricks and shooting up. The only flower left was thistle. And it was haunting and beautiful and all that stuff. I mean, they're noxious weeds. They look like that on the outside, but they have this, just beautiful, soft purple center. And so what we wanted to do is think of it as like kind of reclaiming something that the world thinks of as kind of trashed or used, or that, like you just need to mow it down, and it's like, no, we can do something beautiful with it. So we named it Thistle Farms, and the idea of growing, you don't have a farm of thistles. What you have is you have thistles everywhere that you can go harvest. And we started taking the down out, and we started making paper out of it. And it makes beautiful, beautiful paper.
How did you figure that out? That's pretty fascinating.
I think I was almost born for the place where arts and crafts and justice come together. I love that stuff. I love playing with candles and thistles and crocheting vests or whatever it is. I like doing stuff. I think it's fun. So that part's not hard. The hard part is selling it, not making it.
Okay.
Just for everybody, that's like getting the marketing and the distribution was a lot harder for me. I think for other people it may be different. But, so what we learned, it's like, I'm telling you, it's like 6 or 7 years later, like we never thought about it. Do you know how like you don't think about stuff? Like that's right in front of you sometimes. You're like, oh my gosh.
And then somebody else.
So,
yeah.
Well, we saw thistle extract in Walgreens. You can actually get thistle extract in the Walgreens. And I looked it up, and it was like, it's for detoxing and restoring the liver and for use after trauma. Specifically what the women need who come through Thistle Farms. Isn't that crazy? It was like, it was perfect. It was like people with alcohol addictions or done horrible things to their body. Their liver is suffering, hepatitis C positive, whatever. And we were picking thistle. We were making it into a slurry, breathing it in, and it was like healing.
Yeah.
We didn't even know it.
God is in the details, right?
Right.
Isn't that cool? So, okay, so let's get to the book.
Okay.
Love Heals. Another great gift option, right? So I think when you open up, there is beautiful pictures, but you can gift it to someone. So also available.
And we can make them.
Website.
But see, look, you have to show like how beautiful all these pictures are.
Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful.
So we have, these are like all the images from around the world where we're doing all the work with groups of women. The latest one is Greece. With women Syrian refugees. So what we're trying to do is help people make the connection between human trafficking and refugees for women. That women are, fleeing the violence of war, but not the violence of poverty.
Yes.
And how vulnerable they still are. And there's something like 12,000 young women missing from refugee camps last year. It's unbelievable.
How do you keep it from getting overwhelming?
I don't even think about it.
Okay.
I think it's like fun, And I mean, like, we laugh as much as we cry, and, you know, sometimes we have all the really, really hard conversations and let it sink in. And a lot of times, you know, we're boxing candles and shipping them out, and it's not overwhelming. It feels really doable. And plus, there's a lot of people that are in this with us. And I would say that for me, the most overwhelming feeling I get is how kind people are. I mean, like, you're a stranger to me in many ways. And you come in and you're loving, you want to help. That feels more overwhelming than anything else. It's like, thank you. I mean, truly thank you.
Tears of joy can be just as overwhelming as tears of grief. So, this book, you talk a lot about your story, about Magdalene, about the Sopranos. You can learn all about it in this book. You also talk candidly about your story and give us some great ideas for healing ourselves and getting through almost anything, really. And your story of forgiveness, you mentioned very candidly that you were sexually abused when you were young, which you have in common with many of the 1 in 3 women right now.
I don't know how they make that stat. I always wondered, like, how they get that stat.
I don't know, now that we have the Me Too hashtag, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it could be possible in some way, you know. So, can you talk about forgiveness just a little bit, just briefly, because you talk about it in here in the book. And
so for me, my dad was killed by a drunk driver, and then it was a guy that was leading the church that started sexually abusing me, and it started when I was about 6, so I was really young, and it undid me for a very long time. It was confusing, made me, you know, it makes you inappropriate as a teenager. You know, it makes you angry, it makes you fearful, all of those things. And the thing was, though, is that I never thought that was my story. Like, you know, I did have a loving dad. Even though he was killed when I was 5, he was a loving person. And I had a loving mom. And, you know, even though we knew a lot about poverty, it was like, I just felt, I still, in a weird way, felt like people were good people. You know, I don't know. I never lost it. And I think that was a big gift. So to forgive my abuser was all about being freed from all that. And so what I did was I went and met with he and his wife. When I started out opening the program, I thought, you know, I better get myself together and be pretty strong if I'm going to be doing this with talking about this and being there for women. I just called him and said, I'm coming to your house. Your wife needs to be there. You know, you can imagine he was a nervous wreck. And his wife tried to leave the room. She felt like she was sick. And I said, I'm really going to tell this story, and I'll wait for you to come back. But I'm not leaving if I don't tell this story. And I told about 2 or 3 incidents that I remembered really clearly that were pretty violent. And at the end, he said, who have you told? That was his very first question to me. And I was like, wow, like it all really happened how I remembered it. I'm not crazy. Like, I really didn't do anything. And he's really kind of sick. And I kind of had compassion for him. It was weird. It was like he's messed up, not me. And when somebody's really sick, you can move from brokenness to compassion pretty easily. And so, you know, I talked about what I thought the dangers were for their family. I talked about the fact that, you know, they had daughters and they needed to find out what he had done to them, and they needed help, and he needed to be held accountable in a way. And I had some resources for him, and I said, you're never allowed to contact me. You're not allowed this, but this is your story now, and I forgive you. It's yours. It's y'all's to own. And I really did kind of feel free. I mean, it was a long process. I had a beautiful therapist, but there's something beautiful about just speaking freedom. Even if you don't believe in it, even if you don't understand it, to lean into it and speak it and say, like, I want to be free. That to me was the beginning of forgiveness. It's like, I didn't want to carry it around like, oh, I'm just so sick from this. It's like, I don't have time for it.
It's awesome. That's awesome and so courageous, and what a great model for everyone, all of your women and all the rest of us. Hashtag Me Too's, right? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, last question, I guess. Unless we come up with something else. What makes you happy these days, living here in Nashville and doing this great work?
I love that we're busy again. I love that we're open and busy again. That makes me happy. I love my kids. I have 3 boys. Nothing makes me happier than my sons. Even though they make me crazy, I love them. Crazy, my husband. And I have a brand new blanket that's kind of furry on the inside. And I've been like really excited when I go to bed at night. And I'm like, can you believe this furry? I love fall.
Yeah.
I do want to say something else though, not about what makes me happy. But one of the things that I think what you were talking about earlier was about the economy of it.
Yes.
And about conscious consumerism. And I'd love to talk about that for a second.
I would love to talk with you about that.
So what do you think about it?
Well, I think love is a viable economy.
We get so many people who say like, oh my gosh, I love what you do. It's so beautiful. It's so sweet. The women are amazing. You know, we haven't had a relapse in almost 2 years. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, but then they go buy their soap somewhere else. Or they buy their candles somewhere else. And it's like, do you get, like when you do where you put your value is partly about where you put your money. So if you value this, buy your soap here. It's really good soap. Buy your gifts here. Buy your candles here. And it's like if we could help people make that leap to the viable economy of love, we wouldn't have another problem.
Maybe that's what Jesus really meant. Where your treasure is.
Yeah.
What is it? Where your treasure is,
there's your heart. He definitely meant that. He meant buy your soap at Thistle Farms.
Buy your soap at Thistle Farms, yeah.
It's a direct translation from the original Greek.
Exactly. Okay, so for more information about you and Thistle Farms and Magdalene and the book Love Heals, available everywhere, where can we find you?
ThistleFarms.org. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh, I just love everything you do.
Thank you. Awesome.